So this is so strange for me because I know, first of all, I know I've been MIA. And then second, it's also strange because usually when I go live, I have like a whole setup. Like I'm going live from my desktop computer and I have like the overlay and the weight room and like it's professional. And this right now, I'm literally just on my phone. I'm so nervous. Oh my gosh, I am so nervous. But I'm also excited to like start this process and start this journey and really just see how I'm going to develop over time. So I am part of a, I guess, creative group. Um, and let me turn off my notifications because we don't want distractions. Um, Sorry. So I was saying I'm part of this like creative group. I'm not sure what the right word is for it, but a creative group called like Getting Unshy. And part of that creative group is there's like a challenge. There's a live stream challenge for 21 days, and every day there is like a different topic to talk about. It looks like someone else is here. So hi. Um, Not sure who you are, but hello. Thank you for joining me. Um, but yeah, I was just saying that I am doing a live stream challenge where I'll be live streaming for 21 days straight, and I'm like hella nervous, but also excited about it. And getting into it. So for today, the topic is why I started sewing, like how I got into it, and um, yeah, and what made me start, basically. So I started okay, so basically growing up, I was the kid that was like most kids, I was the kid who's like, "Mommy, like, can you buy me this thing? Like, can you buy me these pants? Can you buy me this shirt? Can you buy me this dress?" And the things that I wanted her to buy me were like things that were trending. And a lot of the times my mom would just be like, "I don't have money for that. Like, who's gonna buy you that? Like, I can't buy you that." Basically, no. So from being told no, I kind of was just like, I gotta find a way. I gotta find a way to get this dress. I gotta find a way to get whatever it is that I want. I have to find a way to get it. And the best way that I can think of right now is to just make it myself, right? Like, I don't have a job, I don't have money to go and buy it. And I don't really have anybody else in my family that I can ask to buy it. So I basically started sewing from being broke, from being poor, from not having money to have all the latest trends that I saw around me. Um, when I first started sewing, it was like really small things. So, and it wasn't even sewing, to be honest. It was more like just creating things. So I would like, I remember like, when you have a curtain and then like the little holder that kind of keeps the curtain in place. I don't know if there's like an actual name for it, but I remember I used to like take that like curtain holder and I would just like wrap it around my neck and it would be like a choker. Or I would take these like I had these like plastic stars that were supposed to be like wall decorations and I would literally put them on my jeans, trace them onto my jeans, and then fill in the traced like star with bleach. So basically, like I would bleach my jeans with like these star patterns. Um, and that's kind of how my like creative journey started, right? It started with me just like creating things based on like the materials that I had. And most of the time it was either like I was doing stuff with bleach or I was doing stuff with just like scissors, just like cutting t-shirts up and stuff. Um and I was also using hot glue. Like I was using hot glue for everything. Oh my goodness. I was using hot glue for everything because I didn't have a sewing machine. And that was the only way that I could quickly mend things together. So that's how the creative journey started. But in terms of actual like sewing, like how I got started on that was I went to an art high school. Um I went to an art high school, and in the art at the art high school, I was a vocal major, so I studied music, but even though there were different disciplines like music, dance, theater, and then visual arts, even though there were different disciplines, and even though everyone had their, like, one discipline to stick to, you could still explore creativity in general. So the school was having a fashion show, and I was like, "Oh, I definitely want to design something for this fashion show." So, being that I didn't know how to sew, and I literally was like hot gluing all of these like clothes together, and I knew like I can't like make a piece from hot glue and then give it to someone to walk down the runway. Like that's just it's not going to fly and it's risky. So I remember speaking to my great aunt Ina, and because she was a seamstress. She worked as a seamstress. So I remember talking to her and I was like, my school is having a fashion show, and I have some designs, like I have some sketches that I made, and I have the fabric, but I don't know how to sew, and I don't want to use hot glue, and I don't want to hand sew it because it's gonna take too long. Like, can you help me sew? And she sat down with me and she taught me how to, oh my gosh, I hope I don't cry. I hope I don't cry. She sat down with me and she taught me how to thread the machine. She taught me how to thread the machine. She taught me like the different stitches, like the basic stitches, like the straight stitch and the zigzag stitch, how to back stitch, how to start the stitch. Um, and she basically was like, "Here, here, sit. I showed you what you needed to know, and I'm gonna let you just sew. I'm gonna tell you how to go about sewing the pattern pieces, um, but it's all on you." And honestly, to this day, I'm so thankful that she like allowed me to be creative and allowed me to have that space to just create. Like she wasn't looking over my shoulder. She wasn't criticizing me like, "Oh, why are you doing it this way, or this is wrong, or you're sewing too fast," or like she just let me be free. And I think life would be so different if I didn't have her as the person that started my sewing journey. But anyways, I digress. So going back on track, I, reached out to my aunt Ina and I told her I wanted to make these pieces. I showed her my designs and she showed me the basics of sewing. And then I sewed. I made my collection. I remember, gosh, I kind of wish I was on my desktop because I would show like pictures and stuff. And maybe I will like re-record this concept, like this topic, and then actually show like screenshots of the pieces that I made. But basically the collection, as far as I can remember, one of the collection was not cohesive. It was not. But luckily, the whole fashion show was like an extracurricular thing. So it wasn't like we were gonna be graded on it or critiqued or anything. It was just really for it was like a talent show, but in fashion version, you know? But I remember my collection, my like my incohesive, whatever the word is, my non like connected collection was so there was this like tube top, and at the bottom of the tube top was like a long rectangular um piece of fabric that was intended to like flip over to be like a scarf. So it's like you had the scarf and then the tube top, but the scarf was like built into the tube top, and it was like this like satin material. I think it was like an orange kind of satin. And then I paired that with like a blue mini skirt that had like a ruffle at the bottom. Um and yeah, and I think that that was like my favorite piece that I made. Then aside from that, I also made another piece where it was like a dress. And this one I kind of like freestyled it, but it was like a tube top dress. that had like a sweetheart neckline, and then along the waist there was like a white ribbon, like a bow tie kind of thing. And I really did like that was just like very lazy work because I didn't actually sew it. I remember like throwing it on the girl who was modeling it and literally like sewing it onto her body. But it still came out cute. That was another piece. And then another piece I had was it was like a two-piece set, and it was an upcycle. So the top part was a hoodie. It was a hoodie that I had, and I think I just upcycled it by adding a neon, so it was like a blue, like fluorescent blue hoodie, and I upcycled it by like cutting it down the center, and I added like this neon yellow zipper to it. And then I think on the back, like I like hand stitched like some text, some letters or some felt letters or something like that. And then for the skirt, I remember I was super excited for the skirt. So the skirt was basically made from like jersey knit fabric, and I took like a long tube skirt, and then I cut it. I slashed it into like maybe like 4 or 5 pieces, and then I connected the pieces back together with safety pins. And that was the skirt. It was like a midi skirt with like you could see the skin, but the safety pins were also kind of like over the skin. Um, and it was so different from the other pieces because the other pieces were all like satin, and kind of and really like classy. And this was like more like street and like urban wear. And now when I think back to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that it makes sense. Like, okay, sure, the collection wasn't cohesive because that was my first like fashion show. I didn't know that like a collection had to be cohesive. Like I just thought, it's a fashion show. You make things, people wear them, and they walk down the runway, and that's it, right? But now when I think about it, I'm like, it makes sense that I created those pieces the way that I did because it's such a reflection of who I am, right? Like I can be in terms of my style, I can be really classy. Like I can wear, something really like elegant and covered. But then I can also have my days where I'm like, I'm throwing on some Dr. Martens, and some harem pants and a hoodie and a crop top, right? And I feel like when I think back to that fashion show, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I did what I wanted to do. And naturally, what I wanted to do was represent myself in the diverse ways that I show up in a fashion sense, Like I'm not just a one like I don't know, I don't just have one style. And I don't know, I just think it's interesting that I was so free, and naturally just able to express that. And now I'm like, okay, I see why. But, yeah, so that was a fashion show. I feel like that fashion show, if I remember correctly, I feel like it was a competition, and I didn't win. And I'm not surprised because, like I said, my high school was an art high school, and I was a vocal major. So every day I was studying music and, sight reading and doing like, juries. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but a jury is like where you like have music tests where you